Inflation has fallen from 4.6 to 3.9%, which is a far more dramatic fall than a lot of economists expected. I'm Callum Mason, I's Money and Business reporter, and I'm going to explain why that's important to you. Inflation was 3.9% in the year to November, which means that in that period, that's how much goods went up by in terms of price. This is important because as inflation goes up, it means that you get less for your money. If you have £1 and inflation is 10% over a year, then you need £1.10 a year later to have the same value. This is why high inflation is bad for an economy, because people's spending power is reduced. Early this year, inflation was very, very high, and it was in double digits, 11% and 10%, and it's come down dramatically since then. But the target for the Bank of England is to have inflation at 2%, and the 3.9% figure that we have now is still nearly double this rate. So while on paper the fall is a good thing, there's still progress to be made, and also it doesn't mean that prices are falling, it just means that they're increasing at a slower rate than they were doing before. The Bank of England tends to up interest rates when inflation gets high, and the logic behind this is that interest rates determine how much it costs to borrow, and if interest rates go higher and it's more expensive to borrow, people tend to spend less money. And the aim is that this means that prices go down, or at least stay the same and don't increase as dramatically as they would have done. Now that inflation is starting to fall, there's been some speculation that interest rates might start to come down. They've gone up consecutively for nearly 2 years and have been held at their current level for 3 meetings. If interest rates do start to drop, this can be good news for mortgage holders, because mortgage lenders tend to use these interest rates when they decide how much they will charge for lending. So this means that if you're taking a mortgage out next year and interest rates fall, then your mortgage may be less expensive. But for savers, when interest rates go down, it can mean that you get less returns on your money because the interest rate offered by the bank is less. This might mean that if you're a saver with some money to put away, you might want to think about doing it now while rates are still high. Inflation falling also means that if you get a pay rise, then your money can actually be gaining in value in real terms, whereas before, unless you were getting a pay rise of 10 or 11%, your money was actually losing value. Despite inflation falling and there being speculation that interest rates will go down, some economists have urged caution and said that historically inflation is still actually quite high. We need to get it to 2% to be at the target level, and this may take a while, perhaps next year or the year after. So while the figure is good news for the money in your pocket, we need to keep watching inflation over the next year and hope that it continues to come down. And if you're a mortgage holder, it might not be time to pop open the champagne just yet.